Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Through Africa. It is still me, your host, Mercy Bamgola, and today we are joining you again live from our studios here in Ankara to discuss first the cross-sectoral impact of mental health in social and national development. And to talk more about this topic, I'll be speaking with Temilore Olaore, who is the founder at Mentally. Hello, Temilore.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. It's good to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much. I am super excited to be here also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and you're welcome. Now, I'd just like us to, go directly into the discussion. How would you describe or define mental health, and why do you think it is essential?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. And I would love to approach the question by introducing myself. My name is Temilore Olaore. I'm a registered nurse, a registered midwife, a registered public health nurse, and the visionary founder of Mentally, a mental health-based organization with the aim of promoting mental health among youth, children, and adolescents. So based on the question you asked me just now about what is mental health and why it is really essential, whenever I think about mental health, I think the best way I can describe it is to use the tripartite nature of mankind. Man it has a body, soul, and spirit. And in the soul of every man, we have the mind, the emotions, and the will. So mental health is basically about the psychological well-being of a person, the psychological well-being, the emotional well-being of a person, and it influences the way we think, the way we relate with other people, the way we behave, and also the way we make decisions. And mental health is really important because the quality of a man's life relies in his mental health. That is just the truth. When people talk about health, they only capitalize on physical health. That is, I can see, I'm not blind, I'm not lame. But then, do you know that the quality of every man's life, it relies on the mental health? That is, how well can you think? What is the quality of your thoughts? What is the quality of your mind? So mental health is really important because it determines the quality of every man's life.
Thank you very much for that great introduction. I think you've laid a good foundation for our discussion. So, there are a lot of mental health struggles all over the world. Like, considering different countries, there are different mental health struggles that each country go through, like which are unique to each country. So, what are the unique mental health challenges, in African communities, and how do they differ from other countries? How do they differ from global trends?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. When we look at the construct of Africa, we realize that Africa is so deep in culture and religion. If there are two things that are so prominent when it comes to African region, it is culture and religion. And that does not mean that it is bad. But however, when we look at it from the aspect of mental health, there are certain things that actually influences the quality of a man's life because of it is Africa. So now, the first thing that is very paramount to African region, it is stigma. Stigma. And the reason is because when we look at Africa, they are very deep in culture because they believe that everything, when it comes to mental health, is basically about spiritual aspect. So when they are seeing any mental health struggles, they see it as a spiritual thing. And that is why even in religion, they see it as very spiritual. Whereas compared to the global world, we realize that they are more informed that mental health is a medical issue, not just a spiritual issue. So that is the first point that we love to talk about. That is mental health. When it comes to Africa, they see it from the standpoint of stigma, that is the cultural beliefs, the religion belief. And also, let us all look at the socio-economical aspects. When we look at the African construct now, we realize that there is a larger percentage of youth in Africa than in any other country or in any other continent. That is, we have a larger percentage of youth. And if you look at our socio-economical balance, we realize that this thing is not balanced. And that is the truth. And that is why we can see the increase in unemployment rate in Africa. We can see a lack of basic education. We can see unemployment going on in the African region. So unemployment also is a root cause of mental health in Africa. compared to the global world, whereby they have structures in place to cater for their mental well-being. They have structure in place, to concerning education and all. So in Africa, there is this unemployment issue happening in Africa, and that is it.
Thank you there. You mentioned unemployment, and I believe that unemployment stems from a lot of issues, poverty, for example. It stems from poverty. It also results in poverty. Now, poor mental health, as we have talked about it, how does it contribute to, poverty and social inequality in the country?
Okay. So mental health plays a very big role when it comes to poverty, and poverty also influences mental health. Just like I was saying earlier, that unemployment is a very big issue in Nigeria and even in Africa generally. And when it comes to mental health, once there is poverty, poverty in a place, definitely there will be a great struggle when it comes to mental well-being, because it requires a sane mind to even think of making money. It requires a sane mind to even think of, oh, what kind of businesses can I build here in my country? So poverty is a very, very root cause of mental health issues in Africa, because once there is poverty, then it will naturally affect the way people reason. And you know that poverty also stems from unemployment or low income. Imagine working so much and you are earning little. So that is it. Poverty really plays a great role. It influences mental health a lot.
Okay, you mentioned there that imagine working and you're earning little. Let's talk about mental health and the workplace. As we do know, most Nigerians, they rely on their daily jobs to feed themselves. How does mental health affect their productivity in the workplace and the economic growth of the country in general?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. When we talk about workplace, now I can define workplace in two ways. Now that we have the increase of remote jobs, that is, people can easily work from home. Now, you don't need to go to the office to work. You can easily work from home. So I'm going to be approaching that question in those two dimensions. That is, for those people that are working from home and also for those that are working in the workplace. When we talk about the workplace system, mental health is one of the most important things that every CEOs or founders or managers need to invest in. Because imagine, just like I said earlier, imagine working so much and earning little. And when people come to work with that kind of mindset, they will realize that there will be low productivity naturally in the organization. That is, though people will be coming to work, but then it will reflect in the productivity of the organization itself. So there is high probability that they will also spend more in the health coverage of their employees. That is, they will have to be taking breaks from work due to sickness. That, oh, I'm sick, I'm not feeling good. And you know that mental health also has a link to physical health. People that experience mental health issues, there is high probability that they will also experience physical health issues like diabetes, like cardiovascular diseases, hypertension, and things like that. So once there can be something like that happening, then it will naturally affect the productivity of the organization. Now, to those people that are working in the remote sector, that is, they work from home, there is this how will I put it now? There is this wave that is happening recently, whereby people say that, oh, I don't want to work in the workplace because my mental health is important. Yes, your mental health is important. However, even working from home, there are strategies that we need to put in place in such a way that even people that are working from home have access to quality mental health care. Because when you are working from home, you are naturally disconnected from your environment. You are naturally disconnected from social relationship. And I say this often, that man is a social being. That is, we as humans, we are social beings, and we must constantly be in communication with our fellow human, and we must constantly be in relationship with also our environment. When you are working from home, all you see is just yourself and your virtual clients. So that means that there is also a burden when it comes to mental health, even when it comes to remote works. That is, there will be a need to take extra care when it comes to your mental well-being. That is, there will be a need to socialize more because you're always indoor, and there is a need to build connections outside of your home. So that is it.
Thank you there, Semilore. There's a need to build connection outside of the home. So now let's talk about what the work you do. You mentioned earlier that you work with Mentally. You're the founder. So what does Mentally do? What work do you do? How do you reach the community?
Okay, like I said when I was introducing myself, that Mentally is a mental health-based organization with the aim of promoting wellness among children, adolescents, and youth through strategic education, advocacy, and support initiative. And there is a reason why we are basically focused on children, adolescents, and youth. And I will start from talking about the youth. The reason why we are paying so much attention to the youth is that when it comes to national development, community development, or societal development, you realize that it is the youth that can build a nation. That is it, because the strength of every nation lies in the youth. That is the quality of their youth. So now we focus so much on youth because they are the building blocks of every society. The youth is the building block of every society. They are the building block of even the national development itself. They are the building block. So if we are going to be building a sustainable future for ourselves, if we are going to be building a sustainable future for Africa, then we must really invest in youth mental well-being. Now that there are a lot of social vices going on, unemployment, substance abuse, things like that, there is a need to really invest in youth mental health. That's the aspect of the youth. Now, coming to the children and adolescents, I believe in something, and it is that even while we are taking care of the youth, even while we are investing so much in the youth, one way to build a sustainable future is also to invest in the children and adolescents, because the youth of today will grow to be the adult of tomorrow. And the children of today will grow to become the youth of tomorrow. So if we are only focusing on the youth of today, that means our future is not in safe hands, because our generation will definitely pass away. What about the ones that are coming behind us? So there is a need to build a chain of succession in our leadership system, in our advocacy system. That is why for Mentally, we so much believe in youth development and also child and adolescent development, because the future, we must also prepare ahead for the future. We must also prepare sustainable ways, in guiding our future. When it comes to mental health, we promote mental health when it comes to education, that is school programs, school engagement strategies. We also involve community development, community engagement strategies, and through support programs. For example, last year, we were able to visit a particular government school here in Nigeria, and we were able to teach the students on resilience, a tool for achieving academic success, because the truth is that for you to even achieve academic success, you need to be resilient in nature. Yes, and there is a need for us to teach children how to be resilient early enough in life. Also, last year, we had a particular conference, Thrive Conference, and that conference is basically about empowering youth with mental health knowledge. So we are able to merge different sectors of influence together: technology, career space, business, entrepreneurship. We're able to bring speakers from different aspects of life to be
Okay,
able to enlighten.
Semilore, thank you. I love the way you talk about, the work that you do and how passionate you are about it. But I'd just like to ask you, the final question, just because of our time. How can African nations prioritize mental health in national development and for example, the agendas and the budgets that are being set for each new year, as we've just entered the new year? How can our African countries get involved in all of this? And how can they put mental health in these plans?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Now, when it comes to putting mental health in the National Development Plan, we need to understand that for every change, we need to be able to go back to the basis. We need to be able to go back to the grassroots of everything. We realize that when it comes to Africa, primary healthcare system is very, very important. And it's so sad that mental health care is not even part, in some aspects, it's not even part of primary healthcare system, even in Nigeria. So there is a need for them to invest in primary healthcare system, that is incorporating mental health to be a part of the primary healthcare system. That is one point. And another point is that there is a need to invest in social campaigns, that is advocacy campaigns on a larger scale. And I think that the private sector are really doing this. For example, even mentally, we do that in our organization. That is, we carry out campaign programs concerning mental health. So there is a need to, improve in our advocacy system in terms of using television, radios, and other social platforms in promoting advocacy for mental health. And also, there is a need to invest in poverty reduction programs. The truth is that, let me use my own country as an example, Nigeria. Many youth go to school, and after school, they struggle so much to get work. So if there can be a system in place whereby youth can also get work in a larger scale, it will really reduce the case of mental health issues in our country. So that means that there is a need to invest more in youth empowerment programs, in terms of poverty reduction programs, in terms of support initiatives. That is, what are the things that we can do for our community that can also put them at the verge of how will I put it now? At the verge of poverty reduction. Yes, there is a need to bring up social programs and things like that. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you. Thank you very much, Temilore. Thank you for speaking on mental health today. And for me, I have learned a lot too. And I do believe that the viewers, those who are watching us right now, they've learned so much about mental health. Thank you again for coming on the show today. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity once again. I am so grateful.
You're welcome. Now to continue, I'll be speaking with Perez Adekunle, who is an academic and policy expert, and we'll be talking about security in Nigeria. Hello, Perez.
Yeah, it's good to be here again.
You're welcome once again. So let's start with the discussion. How would you assess the current state of security in Nigeria?
Yeah, I think the current state of security in Nigeria has been a talking point for a while now. It has always been there, but again, from administration to administration, from government to government, there has perhaps been an increase in the level of insecurity. That has been a worry for citizens of the country. Presently, the state of security is on a scale of 1 to 10. I think the security level is perhaps less than 5 in a dire state. The country is facing numerous security challenges from different angles. As you know, that the country is divided into several regions, sub-regions, the northeast, the northwest, the north central, the southwest, southeast, and south-south. And the truth of the matter is that of all of these regions, these 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria, there is no region, there is no geopolitical zone that is not having its own fair share of the issues of insecurity. The security challenges are spread. Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast. There's a new terrorist group out there now, the Olaore in the northwest, especially in Sokoto State. There's banditry and kidnapping in the northwest and the north central part of Nigeria. There's also piracy to some extent in the Niger Delta region, although that has reduced drastically since the tenure of former President Yar'Adua when the amnesty program was granted to the militants. We also have a pocket of ethnic and communal clashes. Just this weekend, we still had one in Osun State. There's also the rising case of armed robbery. There's the rising case of cybercrime. There's the rising case of even ritual killing, people who kill others for ritual sake because they want to get rich quickly. And so there also, if we go to the southeast, the southeastern part of Nigeria, there are also agitations for a new state, a new country. And so, for example, the independent people of Biafra, IPOB group has been proscribed as a terrorist organization. There are also people who are called unknown gunmen in that region. So the entirety of the discussion, the analysis is that there is no geopolitical zone in Nigeria that is not facing its own fair share of security challenges. And all of these things are happening simultaneously. Although when the present government came in, it was incessant. It was almost every day we were having kidnapping, because kidnapping to a large extent has become a lucrative business in Nigeria now. People kidnap people, take them to the bush, ask for ransom and all of that. And maybe because of the level of unemployment, a lot of youths have done this. And so we have all of those things happening simultaneously across the country. And so presently, that is the country is facing numerous security challenges on all grounds. That is what we have on ground now.
All right, there, Perez, you mentioned specifically unemployment, and I know that this is also a resultant effect of poverty. So the economic hardship in the country, how has it contributed to this increased crisis, increased insecurity in the country?
One of the reasons, even in security studies, why you see an increase, a significant or considerable increase in insecurity is usually the economic hardship or unemployment, as the case may be. Nigeria, as we have it today, is one of the countries that have the highest rate of multi-dimensional poverty in the world. And because people need to eat, one of the hierarchy of needs, the food is up there. You need to eat, you need to provide for shelter. We are not justifying crime here, but we are just saying that this is one of the things that has led to it. Many youths are vulnerable to recruitment. For example, if I am gainfully employed, it will be hard for somebody to come to me to tell me to join a group, a terrorist group or a criminal group. You get what I'm saying now? But people who are unemployed, who are living in poverty, it will be very easy for them to be lured. For example, some months ago, when one of the new terrorist organizations came out in the north west and the north central, the Olaore group, one of the things they did was to put out a video on YouTube, and they called for people to come and join them. I think they promised them about 1 million naira or so. There's this thing they used to entice people, and then inequality and social injustice. There's perceived marginalization and exclusion in some aspects of the distribution of economic resources. All of these things can fuel the sentiment and violence within people. And then when we talk of economic hardship, since the present government came to power on the 29th of May 2023, the president said that subsidy is gone. And because subsidy is gone, a lot of things that people were enjoying, there was prices skyrocketed, prices of goods and services. And a lot of people have been trying to make ends meet and all of that. But again, criminal tendencies usually go very close to people who are unemployed, people who are living in poverty. For example, somebody who has not eaten for 2 days, and then somebody lures you with just a little token and tells that person to come and join them. It's very easy. So that is the close connection between economic hardship and insecurity. The lack of access to job opportunities, the lack of access to education, the lack of access to social justice. Idle hands can easily be recruited for nefarious and very criminal activities. That is the close connection, the nexus between economic hardship and insecurity.
All right, there. So I'd just like to also ask why you talk about, the government and what the government has been doing, especially this recent government in power, which came into power in 2023. How would you assess the negotiations and, the efforts of the government in trying to make crimes lesser, in trying to reduce the number of crimes that happen on a daily basis, especially with these bandits?
There are different dimensions to tackling insecurity. Several dimensions. The government could choose to go all out against the criminals. Violence for violence. They bring it out to give it back to them. The government could also choose to, in some cases, we've seen cases where there are negotiations with terrorists and bandits. And the handling of negotiations with terrorists and bandits to a large extent has been criticized because there's a lack of transparency and accountability in how all of these things is done. Under the last administration, there was a time where we had what they called the repentant Boko Haram members. All of these people were said they surrendered, and then the government said that they were de-radicalized. Also, financial resources from the taxpayers' money goes into all of this. And then some months later, we also heard that a lot of these people were called repentant terrorists, in quotes, went back to their crime. So a lot of people have said that there are different schools of thought. Some people feel, the government should go all out against them, take up arms against these people and for what to do. But again, some people have said, let us negotiate with terrorists. But personally, I think negotiation with terrorists usually do not end well, because to a large extent, people can look at it as a way of going into crime too, and being sure that whether you like it or not, the government is going to negotiate and all of that. There's also I think the biggest issue that we are having, that government should be facing, is not just fighting insecurity itself. Government should be addressing the root causes of insecurity. One of the perspectives, one of the schools of thought, the theories in conflict resolution is the critical security studies. And the theory critiques traditional security approaches because it emphasizes the need for government to consider social, economic, and political context of security. What has led to all of these insecurities?
Okay, Perez, where you talk about, the roots, the government talking about the root problem, I think it just leads us to the next question and the next topic of discussion. What investments do you think that the government should be making in the youth and in job creation? Because as you talked about unemployment. When youths are unemployed, they have all the time in their hands to go into criminal activities. So what should the government be doing to make sure that youths are actually in school, they are doing something for themselves rather than engaged in criminal activities?
Well, let's start from here. One of the things that the government must first find the root causes. Today, we have inequalities on a large scale. We have corruption in a large scale. We have poverty on a large scale. All of these things, we've said it before on this program, that these are the things that drive people to join all these criminal elements. And as a matter of fact, the person who is responsible, the entity that is responsible for all of this, is the government, because the chief means for which the government was created, if you go back to the social contract theory, according to Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and J.J. Rousseau, and all of them, is that the government protects the lives of its citizens. Beyond that, government must also provide basic amenities such that people must be able to live a good life, a peaceable life. And so when you understand and see that, for example, in the Nigerian society, we have poverty, we have inequality, we have corruption, what the government is supposed to do is to tackle all of this. One of the first things that government must do is to prevent the youth from being drawn into criminal activities. And so investments are needed in quality education. Number one, what is the level? What is the level of education that we have in Nigeria today? Number one, is it accessible? Secondly, is it affordable? And are we even having the relevant education? Because again, the world is moving away from the conventional education that we all had when we were growing up. There's the influx of the trajectory of artificial intelligence today. There's the cyber security, globalization, migration, all of these things are happening and affecting the level of education. Where is the Nigeria state still standing in all of this? So government must invest in quality education. Government must also invest in job creation. There must be initiatives that promote entrepreneurship. There must be initiatives that promote vocational training, employment opportunities that can engage youth. A lot of things that the government has done in time past, I think in the past 9 years since the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari in 2015, is to bring about social security. But social security, in all honesty, cannot tackle the root causes. For example, a ministry was created, a Ministry of Poverty Alleviation. But again, when you hand out food and money to people, and they finish eating that today, what are they going to eat tomorrow? And so it is better in Africa, we say that instead of giving me fish, teach me how to catch the fish. I know you understand what I'm saying. So instead of just handling this out, like what we call giveaways to people, let us create a society, a Nigerian state, a country that everybody has access to quality education and job creation, such that only a few people will be on the low side, and by doing that, there will be reduction in insecurity. These are the things that government must look at. And I've also talked about corruption. corruption in high places. Today,
okay, Perez, sorry to cut you short there. While you talk about, we'll still talk about the corruption because that's the final question. You talked about, teaching me how to fish rather than giving me fish. That was a good point there. I'd just like to also ask, while we talk about the problems in the sector, in the lowest part of the sector, let's also talk about the corruption that goes on in the higher parts. For example, security agencies and the fight against insecurity. How does this corruption in these higher places, how does it affect the fight against insecurity in the country?
Okay, there has been several conspiracy theories that have been propounded. A lot of people have asserted that one of the reasons why insecurity continues to increase, to grow in Nigeria, why it continues to fester, is because there are a particular set of people who are perhaps gaining or profiting from insecurity. And when insecurity, security studies have so many things. There is a production of arms and ammunition, both the small and light weapons and the bigger ones. And so there's a possibility that some people are gaining from this. But we have also seen in time past, for example, when the previous administration came into power, they probed some personalities from the previous administration of Goodluck Jonathan, who were said to have diverted resources that were meant for security operations, where government has budgeted huge sums of money to buy fighter jets, to buy this, to buy that. A particular set of people sit down, they corner these things, and they use it for personal gains, which is what we also have in several other sectors in Nigeria. So there's also the issue of compromising intelligence. One of the best ways to fight insecurity, to have a good security in society, is to gather intelligence. But again, among those who are gathering intelligence, how many of them can we trust? And so that is another issue. Then there are also people even who might be protecting criminal networks and interests. Now, let me also state one very important point. The agency, the entity of government, the unit of government itself that is supposed to be the number one to fight insecurity is the Nigerian police. Not just Nigerian police. In almost every sovereign state of the world, the police is the first institution that should fight insecurity. And that is why we said that the police are part of the executive arm of government, because they must implement, they must oversee all of those things. Now, let's talk about what is the nature and the state of the Nigerian police. The people who are supposed to fight insecurity, what do they have on ground? Do they have the weapons? Are they paid adequately? Are they living in very good houses, in good conditions? To some large extent, people in the Nigerian police, some of them buy their uniforms for themselves, and they are not paid well. And these are the same people. And even the institutions and entities that are supposed to fight corruption, a lot of them have been immersed in corruption. So corruption is on a large scale, and these are the things that become. And what we need is political will on the part of the government. Take out the people who would not want these things to work and put in the right people. Square pegs in square spaces. That is what we should have. Until we do that, we continue to have all of these issues repeating itself, and we'll just be going around the same vicious circle.
All right, the Perez Adekunle, academic and policy expert, speaking to us all the way from Nigeria about the security issues in Nigeria. Thank you again, Perez, for coming on the show, and it was a great pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
You're welcome. And with that, we've come to the end of today's show. If you would like to send us questions or suggestions, you can always do so on our WhatsApp number, which is always on the screen. It is still me, your host, Mercy Bamigbola. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, stay safe and goodbye.